Hey, what's up? This is J5 the Constant Grom, and welcome to episode 2 of Skating from the Ground Up. Last episode, we talked about bearings, so this episode, we're going to continue to talk about bearing maintenance. What you see laid out here are a couple of the different stages of me opening the bearings. Some of these actually come open already on one side. This is the Bones Reds, and it has a nylon cage, as you can see, with the steel bearings, but the shield is still on the other side. This one is the Wicked. It has a metal cage. This one also has a metal cage. It's just different. It's just more formed. This metal cage is more like this nylon cage. And you'll see over here is the cage taken out with the ball bearings still in there. But the reason why you don't want to take the cage out, even though you have to if you're going to be using harsher chemicals, is that it's really hard to realign these and put the cage back in. So in most cases, I'm just going to show you how to clean without taking the cage out. So I have a couple different wheels here that I'm going to pluck. I'm actually, I really want to clean my big wheels, my 110s and my 76s, because these are the ones I skate in the city the most, that collect the most dirt. I also wanted to show this one off. This is a metal core, and we'll talk about this in the wheels episode. Really, I haven't figured out how to get the bearings out of these. Wait. I figured it out. I've been practicing, and I've been able to consistently get these bearings out, so let me show you what you're doing. You're going to need a few tools. Now, I started with a flathead, but that just does not get in there. What you want is something that can wedge between the spacer and the bearings. So then I was more successful with a flathead on an eyeglass screwdriver, but after a couple attempts of getting it out, and I had gotten it out with this, and it snapped. So these aren't the best. I found an even better method, which is to use a nail. A nail is going to be a little bit damaging to the spacer in there, but spacers are relatively cheap. You just have to be careful you're not puncturing anything when you're doing this, but it gives you a nice little point to get that into that wedge. Now, the best thing would be a small flathead screwdriver that is not going to break, but I didn't have any around. The next thing I have is, after I've gotten enough of a gap, I use this with it's just a square head screwdriver, and that I can get in there, and it's a little less sharp, so it will do less damage once I get a big enough gap in there. You're going to need your bearing popper. So for the second one, you're going to use a bearing popper. I have my 50/50 frame out here, but anything with a flat surface and a relatively thick material that can rebound, a piece of wood is really good for that. You just want to sort of put load across the entire bearing. This is for when putting it back in, and we'll go over that later. But you can also use your bearing popper tool if you have the ability to take out the hex key, or you have another side that has that can distribute the load across the bearing itself. I'm using a hammer, but I would really suggest that you use a mallet. I just couldn't find mine, a rubber mallet. You want a little more rebound. This is just going to be, you could accidentally put too much force and puncture your bearings, so you just have to be a little more careful. And then this is the secret weapon. This I designed and 3D printed to fit on Famus wheels. They'll fit other wheels also, but basically you could use other things like 2 pieces of wood or 2 other wheels. But what you want to do, this goes on the bottom actually, you want to prop it up so that when you're banging the bottom spacer out, it has room to fall. Otherwise you're just banging it into the table, and that's no good. So the first thing you want to do is take any of the tools you have. You want to push that spacer as far as it can go, and you want to see a little space right there. Now, if you have the regular cylindrical spacers, you probably have more room to push it, but these are the satellite spacers, so there's not much room, which is why I need to use a point. If you did have the cylindrical spacers, you might actually be able to slip it out enough to just use the flathead. So this, I want to rest it against that little piece right there. This is tough, so I usually hold it like this. You see it's coming out a little by little. And I've got it to the point where the spacer is actually coming out a little more. And if you can see that. So I've now gotten this one on the bottom bearing. And I can apply more direct force. So I put enough of a gap that I can now apply more direct force onto it, and that's popping out. So now how you see how that's popping out that way? You're going to want to go onto the other side now and try to get that one. Yep, fell right through. So there you go, you have that. Now how do I get the other one out? This one's easier. Simply put your bearing popper tool in, this fits right in. Again, on this, and that one's really wedged in there, but it's coming out. Pop it right out. So that's how you get that out, those two out. So what about getting them back in? Well, you don't need this anymore. So there's two ways you can do this. If you have a flat surface, something flat, I'm sure Law's never going to sell me a 50-50 frame again after he sees me doing this, but you can now rebound it. You do not want to strike that bearing directly. You want something in between that will take some of the force out of it. You see it going in. The other way is using your bearing tool. We'll also put equal force across it. And that's it. And it's same for the other side. So if we take this, remember always to put your spacer in. Now I want to show you the damage I did to the spacer. You may want to sand that, deburr it, but it's not really going to cause much issues. Drop that back in. Drop that in reasonably well. Again with your bearing spacer. Right in. And that's how you do Famus wheels. Links for 3D printing my bearing stand will be in the description of this video. Again, you don't have to use this. You can use 2 other wheels to prop it up, or even 1 other wheel. In any case, let's get back to how to maintain your bearings. So we got here our oil, our wash, bearing tool, and this I didn't talk about, but it's you can use an X-Acto knife or a razor. I'm using a eyeglass screwdriver with a flat head. This is for getting underneath the shields and popping them off. So this is using the long sleeve spacer, so you can't get the bearing popper in there. So what you would use is more of the flat-sided bearing popper. Force it out that way. So you see this? I'm just pushing this out and that spacer comes out. These have metal on both sides for cleaning. So on these are the Seba twin cams, ILQ9 Pro wheel slalom. And this, I just take that hook, you put it underneath, and you just basically leverage those out. And you'll notice this has a doesn't have a shield on the inside either. And these use the short sleeve spacers. So I'll just put it on the other side and just go back, pull it right out. So the nice thing is when you have the plastic wheel hubs, they come out pretty good because the plastic will deform a bit, and so you can leverage them out fairly easily. Same with these, but these have a different core to them, but it's the same deal. Just leverage it out. Same bearing, but these have a plastic magnetic core that light up, and we'll talk about those in the wheels episode. Again, easy. Okay, for the nylon, these are actually fairly easy. Like that. And that will expose enough. So it's as easy as that to pop these. I'll do one more to show you. So I found it easy to come in from here. And just shimmy along. And you got it. Those are out. Okay, now that we have all 16 of the ILQ9 bearings open, as I said, you can take out the cages if you want. That'll give you a little better cleaning, but these aren't that dirty. It's just a pain to put them back in. And if you lose one of these balls, it's just over with. I like keeping them in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna clean them in the turbo wash with the orange cleaner inside of this. So you take off, you unscrew the top, and it's got this neat little cap here, and this keeps everything sealed and nice so that water doesn't splash around, and the cleaning fluid doesn't splash around. So you just take that out, and there's a little basket here. Take that, and we'll just drop all of the bearings in. Some cleaning packets actually come with use these on so they don't go around so much. Don't really worry about that. Stacks up in your different tankers, so you don't have to worry about it too much. So we'll put it in there. You got it all over the place, but there you go. You just want to burp it a little bit so that the air comes out so it forms a nice seal. And you want to close it. And we'll look at my watch and we'll come back, a couple minutes later. We just want it to sit there, and then we're going to just agitate it a bit and we'll take them out. So while we wait, in the meantime, what you want to do is clean off the outsides of each of your shields. They're going to be dirty. The inside should be fairly clean. Make sure your hands are clean when you're doing this. You don't have to do much, just wipe it down with a paper towel. So it's been a little over 10 minutes now. It doesn't matter if you let it soak there for a little longer than the 4 minutes that's recommended. So what we're going to do is we're just going to shake it. Get any other dirt particles in. Out. I'll open it up. And here's the nice thing. You could do this in a regular plastic jar, but it's nice because it has the little space on the bottom where the dirt can drop. And you can just lift the inner piece off. So be careful here. And then we'll reach in. It's got this little tab here that you can hold on to. So we'll do it and we'll shake it off. Tilt it to make sure the cleaning liquid's coming out. So I can already see all the sediment in this cleaner. That'll sink to the bottom. You can use this over and over for a number of times before you have to then filter it through a coffee filter. But you notice a bit spills each time. This is the nice thing about using something that is not harmful to you or the environment, is that you can spill a little, it's fine. But you'll eventually have to refill this. So we'll take this away. And then we'll just pull these out. Now we have clean bearings. So you want to let these sit and drain for a bit, evaporate all of that out. At this point you could go in with a toothbrush and really be diligent and start to scrub everything in here, but I don't really care that much. And so while that dries, the next step is going to be the Singer oil, so I'm going to start to prep this. Alright, so I'm just going to go in, put some drops on each bearing. And I'll spin them. And I'll do that for all of them. And then we'll come back and put the shields on. Okay, now we're done with the oiling. Let them sit for a little bit. And it's time to put the shields back on. And this is fairly simple. Just go in, make sure you're putting them on the top where the bearings are. You just kind of tuck it in there. And that's it. They're in. Now you want to wipe off any of the grease on the outside. That will pick up some dirt. Do one more We'll do a couple more, and then we'll show you putting them, how to put them back into the wheel. Just go in, just tuck it back in. They snap right back in. Just watch out, my hands are a little dirty. I should have washed them. The grease is leaking out on the side, so you want to just give it a nice wipe. So I'll show you how to put them back into the wheels. I have 2 done right now. You're going to take your hub. Now, I didn't show you this hub. This is a magnetic hub for the luminous wheels, and typically these aren't going to fly out. My hubs were really clean, so I decided not to have to clean them, but you can just wipe them off with a towel. The hub for the magnetic one just goes in there and it just sticks. And then you can just take this, take your first one, just press it in. And your second one. Now these are really easy to put in because I've been skating on them, but sometimes when you get them fresh from the factory and you don't have these actually in yet, they're hard to put in because the plastic is very stiff. So all you have to do is get it in a bit. I usually use a carpet. Don't use a vise, or if you're going to use a vise, make sure that you have something soft or on either side, like a block of soft wood. And you can just palm it if you need. Sometimes on a tabletop, but I like to do it on a rug. I'll even step on it sometimes. As long as you're applying even pressure all across, you should be fine. The danger comes in when people try to use, hammers or things that have sort of teeth to them. They'll put dents into the sidewalls, could cause friction. So as gently as you can, but you can put a bunch of force on these as long as it's even and with a soft material on top. And that's it. Hopefully I've left you more informed. Leave a comment if you have any more questions about bearings, and watch for my next episode on inline skating wheels. Until then, drop a like, subscribe, and hit the bell if you'd like to be notified about my next video. This is J5, the Constant Grom. Until next time, keep learning, keep progressing.